All right, so shall we do our wrap up?
Yeah, I do want to talk about the way he looks with you at some point, but I do want to have a bigger conversation about LGBTQIA
Okay, so maybe we'll do
plus
that.
movies with you, and so I figure we'll save it for then.
Yeah, we'll save it for either next week, the week after, whenever I get enough of those in. I'm slowly getting back into watching more movies after needing to take a break.
What we were talking off air about, and I don't know if you'd want to edit this out, but since we're going to go over what we've been watching and what we're going to watch, I personally would think it'd be interesting if you focused a little more on those for like a week or two, kind of the way you've been doing with Star Trek, because then we could have a kind of an interesting conversation about it.
Yeah, I think that is, we will come up with a list.
But now go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about.
Well, so here's what I've watched that I have a few things to say about that I don't think we're going to have a longer discussion about. There's Blondie of the Follies, which was the one with what's her name in it that you really liked.
Marion Davies.
No, wait, right, this is a different one. Sorry, that one. I liked Blondie of the Follies, but it's not so much a Theo movie, so I don't have a lot to say about it. Marion Davies was interesting.
I think Marion Davies is underrated because she was William Randolph's Hearst's girlfriend, and she didn't have much of a career. I think she was not a great actress. I don't think she's like a Garbo or something, but I think she was a good comedic actress I find her really charming in her movies. And Blondie of the Follies Blondie of the Follies was an interesting woman-centric film from the 30s. I think, and it was pre-code, and that makes it interesting. Is it a great movie? No, but it was interesting.
I agree with you. You said what I think. The next one I have on my list is Dames. Don't have a lot to say about that. It's another Busby Berkeley musical with Ruby Keeler and Dick Powell and the crew. It's interesting. I like it less than Gold Diggers in 1933. There's some of the musical numbers. Is it Dames? Yeah, Dames. It has the clothesline music, the clothing number, and it has everybody doing their hair and makeup and their.
It's some very female-centric dances in it, or feminine. Definitely in the 30s, that was women's work, was laundry and beauty, and so there's some songs and dance around that, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and it's of its time in a way, but it's not exactly aged. It's like kind of aged poorly, but not exactly. It's not really that it's aged poorly. It's just aged in its time, but the musical numbers are so neat. So Dames was cool. I don't have much to say about 42nd Street. There wasn't.
You didn't pay enough attention to that one. That one's good.
I guess so, yeah. I think the musical numbers didn't get me, and some of the plot was interesting. Maybe I'll give that one another shot soon.
Because that one, it's interesting because it's pre-code and it's got all the sexual politics in it, but you weren't paying very much attention to it, and its musical numbers were not my favorite. So
yeah, it's still in my burnout period, so I didn't pay as close enough. Frequently asked questions about time travel is the next one. I don't have a ton to say about it still, but it was neat. I did like the plot. I liked Chris O'Dowd. I liked the cast. I liked. It's one. They had one location and they did some interesting things with it, and it looked like they might have had.
It's a low-budget sci-fi film about time travel, and
I like time travel movies. It's like the thing where it's like I'm sure I could talk about this forever, but I try not to talk about it too much because I know it's kind of a thing that interests me and doesn't always interest a ton of other people. Like I like that they thought through the loops and they thought through how it all works, and it's very well constructed.
If dark is too dark for you, but you want time travel, you can try. It's a bummer because it's got writing problems. It's got big writing problems.
Anna Faris shows up and is just not well written and is not that interesting.
Yeah, so it's a bummer because movies like that. I want more movies like that and more better written movies like that, and they just don't exist that much.
Yeah. It's a mad world is the next one. Which is a comedy from 1963. It's got everybody who was a comedian that lived in that era in the movie. I mean, that's an overstatement, but there's a lot of people in that movie. The Three Stooges throw up for a cameo. Buster Keaton doesn't say anything but shows up for a second.
In Mad World, the Three Stooges show up?
The Three Stooges show up. They were the firemen.
Oh, that was somewhere in the 3 hours where I looked down.
Yes, and it's fine. Anyways, but it's like there are things to say about it, but it's kind of just it's a slapstick comedy. There's a plot and there's not a lot of story, it's got Spencer Tracy in it, which is interesting, and they're kind of
it's
just
beautifully shot. It's like,
shot, and just lots of interesting
I mean, you
things
think
happen.
about comedies now and how little effort can be put into actually making them look good. It's so frustrating.
In a weird way, like there's all these comedies now that like have a story and a plot, and there's like too much story, and like this is one of those done well in a way. Well, so like they put too much story into comedies nowadays. I'm like thinking of Office Christmas Party, because we had that at when I used to work at the trailer company. Office Christmas Party, where like there's a story and there's a plot, but then just like slapstick stuff happens. Where like It's a Mad World has the right amount of like slapstick or not slapstick, but just kinds of comedy to plot with not a lot of story. Like it has the right ratio and stuff where like I laughed a few times and I understand why it would be funny to people. Anyways, that's what I got for that one. I watched Down in the Delta. We could talk about that another time, but I don't know that I have a ton to say about it. I like Down in the Delta. It's like poetry, which makes sense since Maya Angelou directed and I think wrote it, or at least co-wrote it. And there's some interesting aspects to it, but there's also like, and spoilers, there's aspects in the later part of it where it's like, and we're saving the town. It's like,
also like, you also get to see a large cast of pretty much entirely Black actors, and there's really good actors and actresses, and they're given, you still haven't watched Hollywood Shuffle. They're not, well, I guess there's a little bit of it, but they're not just playing like, what is it? It's slaves and drug addicts.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
A lot of Black parts were for a long time and still are. You get to see Wesley Snipes playing like
A lawyer.
A member of a family,
Yeah.
which, and he actually gets more exciting parts. Usually he's like an action hero. So it's interesting to see him. Alfred Ruder is great.
He's great. I think his name is Al Freeman Jr. He shows up in Malcolm X. He's really good in this. And then also Esther, what her name? She plays the grandmother, who's his counterpart. She's actually in Driving Miss Daisy, which is.
Are you thinking of Esther Roll, who I might be pronouncing her name wrong, or are you thinking of
Esther?
Mary
I think Esther Roll is who I'm thinking of. Esther Roll is in Driving Miss Daisy.
She's really good. It's one of her last roles.
Yes.
Mary Alice is really good. Loretta Devine is really good.
Mary Alice is in To Sleep with Anger, which I really like. And she's good in this. Yeah, there's a lot of great acting. Like Down in the Delta it ends up being a bit schmaltzy, and it's a weird thing where there's a lot of really great parts, like great acting, some really great moments, some really great story. But then there's like some schmaltz and stuff that just kind of, and the music, I didn't care for the music in this movie. That's just like overdone. So it's like, it's weirdly, some of the parts are better than the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that might be one of the last things I have anything to say about, because The Cockettes was a neat documentary. People should see it. It's about a bunch of drag queens, I guess, drag queens in, would they be queens? I don't know.
I don't know. That's what, I mean, it was a lot of cross-dressing gay men, but they weren't, I don't think they were necessarily
maybe they were drag queens.
It was just, it was an interesting culture around elaborate dress that buck gender norms. Let's do that. Let's call it that.
Yeah, I'd recommend that.
In San Francisco specifically, which is different from what happened in New York.
Yeah, that was a really interesting, that was an interesting doc. I'd recommend that to people. The last thing, we're going to save The Way He Looks for later, for when we're doing our big thing, but Forbidden Planet, which I don't think was your thing, but just was a really neat piece of, sci-fi. Doesn't work in some areas, and it has Leslie Nielsen, which is amusing, and lots of short skirts for no good reason, and a Vincent Price lookalike, even though he's an actor, Walter Pigeon, who did other things. Forbidden Planet was fun. I like Forbidden Planet a lot, but it is what it is.
I found it less painful than some of those movies, but it still had the part where like they just talk about things and nothing interesting is happening. Yeah.
And so what are you watching? What are you thinking of watching?
Do I get to go over what I've watched?
Oh, yes, sorry.
So I did a bunch more.
It's all about me, Sarah.
I watched a bunch more LGBTQ stuff. some of which I already talked about in Instagram. And I'd like to have a larger conversation with you about it. So I'm not going to say much here, except that to me, the standouts were Hawaii from 2013. It's an Argentinian film by a director whose name escapes me, who is gay and does movies around gay characters a lot. Canary, which is a South African film from, I think, 2018 that takes place in the 80s. And it was really interesting and different. And I thought there was another one. Also, the half of it I enjoyed more than I think you expected. It was not.
You did.
It's not as romantically light as some of the other ones I'm mentioning here, but I thought it was really good. I liked the characters in it a lot. I think I mentioned Princess Sid in that Instagram post, which is the one I'm thinking of, which is a good one about a young woman figuring out her sexuality in a way that is kind of less dramatic, and it's good. I watched Ready or Not and was very disappointed by it. I have to be honest. You told me to watch it. And I think it's the kind of disappointment, though, with seeing something fall just short of what you want it to be. It's not the kind of disappointment that comes of, like, up the long ladder. It was hardly terrible, but I'm watching it and I'm like, this has the potential to be better than Knives Out and to say something about wealth inequality and how the rich treat poor people and so on. And it's just not doing it. It did that thing that a lot of horror and a lot of films that are disappointing do, where it has like interesting setup and then just lets it all go and lets the action play out instead of deepening any of its setup.
Yeah, I think I probably like Knives Out better than you do, but it's one of those things where it's like, I thought it might tickle your fancy the way that I haven't seen Happy Death Day, but like, I know that you like that movie, and I felt like it was this is that kind of movie where it's like kind of fun and it doesn't go too deep. But I guess I like it a fair bit for what it is. But I guess it does kind of set up things that it doesn't really pay off.
I found the characters very disappointing in their lack of having characters. And I think if you watch Happy Death Day, the main character has a stronger arc and story than Ready or Not, which is, by the end of the movie, I knew a thing about her. And
that's fair. I think I get that.
It's not terrible. If you want to watch it, you should watch it. It's good. I didn't love Knives Out the way a lot of people did. I get it's good. I get why people loved it, and it was disappointing to me because I would have. I
don't love it the way people did either. I just probably like it more than But no, Ready or Not is fun. It's fun horror. I don't know.
I did watch Millennium Actress, which is one of the few. I mean, Satoshi Kon only did so many. He's a Japanese man, anime director who did amazing movies like Paprika and Tokyo Godfathers, and died, unfortunately. And I spent the last 10 years forgetting that he was dead and then occasionally being startled. But I think I really know now that he's dead, and I'm trying, he only has so many movies. Millennium Actress was not my favorite, but his movies are all good. And it has the same inventive creativity that all his movies have.
The character in that, I know, is based off of an actress who is really famous for being in Ozu movies.
I think you should watch it because I recognize there's definitely Kurosawa in it. There's definitely, Godzilla just straight up shows up in it. Like, there's definitely, you are actually better versed in Japanese film than me overall. I have a couple odd spots. Go Hato. But I think you're more likely to recognize some of the stuff he is referencing.
I think the actress's name is Setsukahara. I think that's the name of the actress. She shows up in one Kurosawa film, but a bunch of Ozu movies, and she's an interesting actress. So I've known about Millennium Actress for a while, and you watched it, and I was like, I should really watch that. So I'll do it soon.
It's available.
Yeah.
I watched more movies than you, so this could go on forever. But I want you to watch An Actor's Revenge. That's a Japanese film by a director who has a name that people know, and I can't remember. And it's about a kabuki actor who specifically is one of the male actors that played female parts, and he goes for revenge. And I really loved the visual style, and I really loved the characters, and the plot was serviceable. I watched I'm a Cyborg, But That's Okay, which is the guy, I want to remember his name, so let me look him up, because he also did The Handmaiden, which I think is amazing. Park Chan-wook, Korean director, obviously, like I just said. He also did Old Boy. It felt in I'm a Cyborg, But It's Okay is, I was looking for quirky rom-coms, and these are two people in a mental institution. And there's a lot of really good stuff in it. Ultimately, it feels incomplete, but I enjoyed it. I watched Love Exposure, which is a 4-hour Japanese film, and it wins for having it is bonkers, it is over the top. I almost wonder what you'd think of it, because it's got that melodrama aspect of it. Like, you like Pedro Almodovar, right? More than I do.
Yes.
And it's got some of that, it's it's a different culture, it's different references, but it's got that zaniness in it. Like, there's, instead of having a lot of LGBTQ stuff in it, which is what Pedro Almodovar does, this is like ninjas and not ninjas, kung fu and Japanese schoolgirls and just a lot of like Japanese cultural stuff, but with the same kind of high lows. Anyway, I would be curious what you thought of that, but it's 4 hours, so I understand. And I just watched High Plains Drifter, and I'm not very versed on Westerns, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was really interesting how much Italian giallo horror aspects it has in it, because it is a Western with Clint Eastwood in it.
And you've made me want to rewatch it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I'm just going to go into, I am really looking for quirky, interesting, fun films, and I am really depressed. I'm being a neophile, you might say, which came up in an earlier conversation. I like novelty, and I am really depressed by how hard it is to find foreign films streaming right now. A lot of them have disappeared from Amazon. A lot of ones that were like really popular in my teens, like The Princess and the Warrior, a really good German film, streaming nowhere. So I keep finding lists of movies like by the guy that did Houseu. Cannot stream them anywhere. And I'm talking, you cannot pay money to stream them. I'm not saying they're not free anywhere. I'm saying there's no way for you to watch them without hunting down physical media at the moment. And that just depresses and upsets me. But I think this week I'm going to rewatch some stuff that I liked, and maybe talk about it on our Instagram, since we've both been very quiet there lately. And I'm in the mood for things so I might watch more Westerns. I don't know. I'm in the mood for something a little different. I've kind of gone through a lot of the quirky romances and the LGBT romances that I can find. So that's where I am.
Yeah, I'm finally feeling less burnt out on movies, which means I'll be able to watch more movies, which should improve our conversation and our ability to discuss things, and for the viewers at home, make Sarah less mildly perturbed at me.
I don't have much to say about Satisfactory, so.
But you got to build all the factories and get the coal to go just right, and just
look. Video games are a thing. They're as valid a thing as movies, and I'm 100% behind video games. But if we were to do start doing an Instagram and vlogs about video games, every week it'd be you doing Satisfactory and me doing Binding of Isaac, and I just don't think
it's not very interesting, I suppose.
I don't think that's or Best Fiends. I've been playing a lot of Best Fiends lately.
The only plan I have coming up is either today or next Saturday. One of those 2 days, I promise. I'm doing Kissing Jessica Stein, followed by Princess Sid. I had planned this before. Sarah got a little annoyed at me earlier today. But it's just a matter of, I'm still trying I don't want to re-burn myself out right after being burned out. So I'm doing that is one plan I have. So next Sunday.
If you just want to watch one, Canary, I think, or My Life with James Dean.
Yeah, I might watch one of those today, or at least this week. Canary or My Life with James Dean.
I suspect you would like Canary more. I prefer My Life with James Dean. They're both very good.
Excellent. So those are on my list. I think you and I should come up with a short list of things I should watch so we have things to talk about. But the other movies I'm thinking of watching, I have piles and lists that I want to go through. One of the issues is that I keep watching a lot of movies that aren't on my list. And so I need to break things down in a certain way so that I make sure I get enough movies in that Sarah wants me to watch. I get enough movies in that Jill wants me to watch. And I start working my way through one of my lists I have. So I've got to figure out how to break it down. But basically, that's my plan.
I am also willing to watch things that you want to watch. You just haven't really given me much as far as that. Like if you want to talk about Ikiru next weekend, just let me know and I'll bump it up my list.
Yes, we will make those lists or that.
But you could watch Millennium Actress. I'd be curious what.
Yeah, that one I think Jill might even like because Jill likes some of the weird stuff we watch anyways, but it might be slightly more up her alley anyways. Anyways, that's my plans. I don't have tons of plans. I'm still debating how much I'm going to watch this week, though I think I have a plan by mid-August, which would be the week after this, to start getting back into movies a little more solidly. So we'll see what's in store. Anyways, thank you all for listening. This has been fun. Have a good summer.
Keep in touch.
I hope you enjoyed seeing.
Am I having weird? I feel like when I move my head, weird thing. Maybe
yeah, your camera's having issues with movement, but it's fine. They had Luna on screen. Yeah. Anyways, bye everybody.
Bye.